I was sitting alone on Christmas Eve staring at the blinking lights of my small apartment tree, when my phone buzzed. It wasn't a Merry Christmas. It was a PDF invoice from my father, for $5,200. For my brother's yacht party. I wasn't even invited. That's when I knew. I had been cut out of my own family. But they were about to find out, so had their access to everything. I sat alone in my apartment on Christmas Eve, watching the soft glow of the tiny tree I'd put up in the corner. It wasn't much, just a few dollar store ornaments and a string of warm lights I'd used for the past 5 years. But it gave the room a little comfort. I had lit a cinnamon candle too, hoping the smell would make it feel like Christmas. So it didn't work. Something about being forgotten takes the sparkle out of everything. I used to love this time of year. My mom would bake her famous pecan pie, and my dad would grumble about the tangled lights while secretly enjoying every minute of it. My brother and I would argue over which movie to watch. He always wanted action, I always wanted something that made us cry. In those moments, even if we weren't the perfect family, we felt like one. But that was years ago. This was the third Christmas in a row they hadn't invited me. Not even a phone call, not even a text. The first year they said it was a mix-up. The second year they claimed they assumed I was working and didn't want to bother me. But this year, no excuses. Just silence. And somehow the silence was louder than any words they could have said. I scrolled through my phone, half hoping someone had remembered me. A childhood friend maybe. A coworker. Nothing. Then my screen lit up with a notification. It was from my dad. For a second my heart jumped. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was a message to say, "We miss you," or, "Come by tomorrow, we saved you a plate." But it wasn't that. It was a PDF attachment. I opened it, my fingers already trembling. At the top of the page in bold font it said, "Holiday yacht party, shared family expenses." Right below it, total, $5,200. And under that just one line. Split evenly, your part, $2,600. I stared at it for a full minute, thinking surely this had to be a joke. A sick, twisted joke. I hadn't been invited to the party. I hadn't even known there was one. But here they were, sending me a bill like I was just some wallet on legs. Not even a card. Just a bill. My throat tightened and I felt that familiar sting behind my eyes. I put the phone down and stared back at the little tree. Its lights blinked softly like nothing had changed. But everything had. They didn't want me there. They didn't care that I was spending Christmas alone. But they remembered me when it came time to pay for my brother's yacht party. Of course they did. He was always the golden child. The one who could do no wrong. The one they built their holidays around. Me. I was the afterthought. The reliable one. The one who always paid on time, always showed up, always forgave. I picked the phone back up, staring at the invoice again. Every part of me wanted to cry. But something else stirred too, something stronger. A quiet kind of anger. Not the screaming kind, but the cold, steady kind. The kind that grows roots and waits. Because in that moment I knew. If this is how they saw me, then maybe it was time I stopped pretending we were still a family. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about that invoice and all the Christmases that came before it. Back when things were quieter, smaller, but still full of love. I wondered when that shifted. When did I become just the extra person? The one they forgot until they needed something. Growing up, it was always clear my brother was the favorite. He didn't have to earn it, he was simply born into it. He could break curfew, skip chores, mess up his grades, and it would be brushed off as boys will be boys. But if I forgot to wash the dishes, I'd hear about it for a week. If I got an A instead of an A+, Dad would say, "You're smart. You can do better." Dad had a nickname for me, the independent one. At first I thought it was a compliment. He'd say it proudly to neighbors or family friends like, "Oh, she's the independent one. She handles herself." But over time I realized what it really meant. It meant they thought I didn't need support, didn't need attention, didn't need celebration. They treated my strength like it was a reason to leave me out. And Mom? He just followed along. She never raised her voice, never questioned the unfairness. When I tried to talk to her, really talk, she'd just say, "You know how your father is," like that excused everything. Like my hurt was just a side effect of keeping the peace. I started to pull away slowly, not because I stopped loving them, but because it was exhausting to keep proving I belonged in my own family. And then came the most recent punch in the gut. Just a few weeks ago my brother got promoted. A big title. More money. Everyone was thrilled. The group chat, where I'm rarely included, suddenly lit up with messages about the celebration. I didn't get an invitation. Not even a heads up. But the worst part? I had helped him get that promotion. He'd sent me his messy 2-page resume in a panic a few months back, saying the job was out of his league and he didn't think he stood a chance. I spent 2 nights editing it, rewriting entire sections, crafting a cover letter from scratch. I even gave him pointers for the interview, pretending I didn't notice the panic in his voice because I knew he needed the help. And now here he was, partying on a yacht without me. Probably telling everyone how hard he worked to get there. Probably letting them believe he did it all on his own. That was the part that really stung. Not that he got promoted. Not even that I wasn't invited. But that they could celebrate him so publicly while treating me like some distant cousin they barely remembered. It wasn't just about Christmas anymore. It was a pattern. A pattern I had excused for years, thinking maybe one day it would shift. That maybe one holiday they'd look up and say, "You know what? She deserves to be here." But instead they sent me an invoice. "They want my money," I whispered to myself, "but not my presence." That line echoed in my head for days. It summed up everything I'd been too tired to say aloud. They didn't miss me. They missed what I could provide. And that realization broke something in me that I'm not sure will ever fully mend. Because family should be where you feel seen. And I hadn't felt seen in years. For a few days I didn't reply. I kept staring at that $5,200 invoice like it might suddenly disappear if I blinked long enough. But it didn't. Stayed right there on my phone, cold, bold, and unapologetic. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't even signed with a "Merry Christmas." Just numbers. Just a payment request like I was some stranger who owed them rent. I thought maybe I'd just delete it and move on, pretend it didn't hurt. But the truth is it burned. And the more I sat with it, the more the anger started to rise. Not just over the invoice, but over everything it represented. I remembered birthdays where my cake was a grocery store leftover while my brother got custom ones. I remembered getting myself to college orientation while Dad took a week off to help my brother settle in. I remembered family dinners where my voice barely mattered and vacations where I was invited last minute, if at all. It was always like that. Always me giving, showing up, being the reliable one, while they poured their affection into my brother like he was some golden child sent from heaven. I looked around my apartment, the soft couch I bought after working overtime 3 months straight, the dining table I put together myself, the bookshelf filled with secondhand novels I collected one by one. This place, this life, it was mine. All of it. Built by me, paid for by me. And suddenly I felt this wave of clarity. A sharp, painful kind of realization. I was done. Done being their safety net. Done pretending I didn't notice the difference in how we were treated. Done giving and never being invited to the table. They didn't want me there. They made that clear. So I picked up my phone, opened the Zelle app, and typed in exactly $1. In the notes section I wrote, "Santa skipped me too." I stared at it for a second before hitting send. It was petty maybe. But it felt good. Like the first brick being pulled from a wall I had built around myself for years. And I didn't stop there. That night I went through every service, every account, every card that had my name on it but had been quietly benefiting my family. Netflix, gone. Hulu locked them out. Amazon Prime, cancelled. Spotify reset the password. I even removed them from the family phone plan I had been paying the bulk of for years. They never even said thank you. Not once. Then the credit cards. 2 of them were in my name but used by my parents for emergencies. I had let it slide thinking, it's family. But now I saw it clearly, I was being used. So I froze both cards and called the bank to request new ones with new numbers. Each click, each cancellation felt like I was peeling off years of pressure, years of trying to be the bigger person. I wasn't being cruel. I was taking back control. For the first time I wasn't giving. I was choosing me. And as I closed my laptop that night I felt calm. Not joyful, not satisfied, but calm. I knew there would be fallout. I knew someone would call or text. Probably in confusion. Probably in anger. But I didn't care. They had drawn the line. I had just decided to stand on the other side of it. The next morning my phone started buzzing before I even got out of bed. First it was a text from my mom. "What's going on?" "Netflix says it's disconnected." No, "Good morning." No, "How are you?" Just confusion about not being able to stream her shows. Then came a missed call from Dad. And another. And another. I watched his name light up my screen 3 times before I finally put the phone face down on the dresser. I wasn't ready to deal with him. An hour later, my brother sent a message that made my blood boil. "You're being immature. This isn't how family handles things." Oh, now he wanted to talk about family? Where was all this concern when I was spending Christmas Eve eating leftovers alone? Where was this mature energy when they sent me an invoice for a yacht party I wasn't even invited to? I didn't respond. By noon, the group chat was lit up like a Christmas tree. Mom asking again about the TV services, Dad writing long-winded messages about financial confusion, and my brother throwing in little digs about me being dramatic and too sensitive. They weren't sorry. Not one of them had said sorry. They were just upset they lost access to the benefits of me. That evening I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hi, this is Erica from Bank Name Fraud Department," the voice said politely. "We've had a report of possible unauthorized card activity involving accounts under your name. Is this a good time to talk?" I smiled. "So they really did it?" "Yes, I'm the account holder," I said calmly. She began reading off details. The cards I had frozen, the new ones I requested, the accounts flagged for review. My dad had clearly reported that I had done something shady. "There's no fraud," I said plainly once she was done. "I own those cards. The people using them were my family. I no longer give them permission. That's all." There was a short pause on the line. I imagined her raising her eyebrows slightly. "Oh, okay," she said. "So just to confirm, you're aware of all the recent changes and you authorized them?" "I did," I replied. It was time. They were using me without appreciation or respect. There was another pause. Then she asked, "Would you like us to close the fraud case?" "Yes, please. Close it. There's no fraud here, just a family that mistook me for a doormat." I said it with a small smirk I couldn't hold back. And honestly, it felt good to say it out loud. She chuckled softly. "Understood. I'll make a note and follow up with the person who filed the report." "Thank you, Erica. I appreciate it." After the call ended, I sat there in silence for a while. It was strange how peaceful I felt. I had expected guilt, maybe a little panic. But instead I felt grounded. Steady. Let them scramble. Let them figure out how to watch their shows or pay for their dinners. Maybe, just maybe, they'd finally realize I wasn't some background character in their lives who existed to make things easier. I had a voice. I had limits. And finally, I had boundaries. After the bank call, I made a decision that surprised even me. I stopped replying to their texts and calls. Every message from Mom, Dad, or my brother sat unanswered on my phone. I didn't block them, I wasn't trying to punish. I was finally taking a step back and putting myself first. For years, I had felt the weight of their expectations, their demands. They called me the independent one, like it was some kind of badge, but it was really just a way to avoid helping me. I was the one who held everything together, the one they expected to manage on her own. Now I was rewriting those rules. At first, there was a strange quiet in my life. No daily calls, no last-minute favors, no, "We need you to cover this," or "Why aren't you coming over?" It was peaceful, the kind of peace I hadn't felt in a very long time. I spent the next few days just breathing. I took walks without my phone. I sat by my window and watched the snow fall. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone to remember me or invite me somewhere. New Year's Eve came, and instead of the usual loneliness, I planned something different. I dressed up in a warm coat and went out to a small, cozy restaurant downtown. I ordered a nice meal for myself, steak, mashed potatoes, and a glass of red wine. I sat by the window and watched the city lights sparkle, feeling a strange kind of joy. As the clock struck midnight and people around me cheered and hugged, I smiled quietly to myself. I thought about all those years of being left out. Birthdays, holidays, family dinners. How often had I been the one who wasn't invited, the one who wasn't acknowledged? They used to say, "You're strong. You don't need us." Those words had hurt more than any cold silence. Because deep down I knew they meant it. They didn't want me for who I was. They only kept me around because I was useful. I was the foundation of their lives, the one who made sure everything ran smoothly. I paid the bills they forgot, I fixed problems they ignored. I cleaned up after their messes, both real and emotional. But I wasn't a doormat. I wasn't an invisible helper. I was a person. And for too long I had let them forget that. That night, as I raised my glass alone, I realized something important. I wasn't the forgotten child. I was the foundation. And I just walked away. Walking away wasn't easy. It was painful to let go of the hope that they might change or finally see me as more than just the independent one. But it was necessary. I deserved to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. Not because of what I could give, but because of who I was. That New Year's Eve dinner wasn't just a meal. It was my declaration. My promise to myself that I would no longer let others define my worth. As I finished my wine and stepped outside into the crisp winter air, I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time I was choosing me. And that choice was just the beginning. Weeks passed and life without their calls and messages felt strangely peaceful. I was finally living on my own terms without waiting for their approval or invitations that never came. I spent more time focusing on myself, my work, my friends, even my health. The weight of their absence slowly turned into a kind of freedom. Then one afternoon, out of nowhere, an email popped up from my dad. I stared at the screen for a long time before opening it. The subject line said simply, "We need to talk." His words were carefully chosen. He apologized, but not fully. It was the kind of apology that tries to fix things without really admitting fault. He said, "Family sticks together even when it's hard. We should never forget that." I read those words over and over. Family sticks together, he said. But I wondered, why hadn't they stuck together with me? Why had I been left out of every celebration for 3 years? Why had they sent me a bill instead of a card? Why had I been so easily forgotten? I replied to his email with just 4 words. Exactly. So why didn't you? That simple question hung in the air like a challenge. It wasn't angry or mean. It was the truth I wanted him to see. Family really sticks together. Why did they treat me like I was not part of theirs? As I hit send, a calm washed over me. I didn't need to argue or explain myself more. The question said everything I felt. Soon after, my brother tried to reach me too. His message came through on my phone. A text that was both rude and desperate. He tried to guilt-trip me, saying, "You're tearing the family apart. How can you do this to us? You owe us." But I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because I was done being their emotional punching bag. I was done feeling guilty for standing up for myself. I knew that by not answering I was finally drawing a line. I was protecting my peace. After that, I closed all the old family shared accounts. No more Netflix under my name that they used without asking. No more family phone plan that drained my money. No more credit cards linked to me that paid for their yachts and parties. I opened new accounts in my own name with new cards and new phone numbers. I cut all the old ties that had held me back, financially and emotionally. It felt like I was stepping into a new life. A life where I was in control, where I could breathe without fear of being used or forgotten. I spent evenings reflecting on everything that had happened. The painful memories of being left out, ignored, and taken for granted still stung, but they no longer defined me. That Christmas, they didn't unwrap presents from me. They didn't get a call or a card. Instead, they unwrapped the truth that I was no longer theirs to take for granted. And that truth terrified them. Because for the first time, I wasn't just the daughter they expected to give and never ask for anything in return. I was a woman who had learned her worth. A woman who had stopped waiting for their love and approval. I realized that sometimes, walking away is the strongest way to say, "I matter." And as I moved forward, free from their shadows, I knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning of my new story.